Suspense! Go!
Welcome to Storyflix. In this video, we will explain Return to the Blue Lagoon. This movie is about a widow, her daughter, and a boy who were cast away from a ship. They drifted to a tropical island where the children grew up, learned life lessons, and eventually fell in love. Let's follow their unusual love story on Return to the Blue Lagoon. The film begins by showing a ship sailing to the city of San Francisco. On the ship, many passengers came from the European continent. While on their way, they found a small boat bobbing in the ocean. It turned out that 2 adults had died in the boat and a boy who was still alive. The people on the ship finally saved the boy and buried his parents by sinking their bodies. The ship then continued its journey to America. On the way, the ship's captain tells a passenger named Sarah to take their newly found boy and her daughter to a smaller boat. That's because the officers on the ship contracted the deadly cholera disease. Finally, Sarah brought her daughter Lilli and a boy named Richard on the smaller boat. There was also a man named Kearney coming with her. For days they were in the boat, but had not yet found land for them to stop by. They began to feel tired and hungry because there was not much water and food in the small boat. The 2 children also cried a lot from hunger, making Kearney eager to kill the 2 children. Kearney also didn't give water to Sarah and her children. Because her children suffer from not being able to drink, Sarah finally intends to kill Kearney. When Kearney was off guard, Sarah immediately grabbed a stick and hit him. Kearney was dead. Now Sarah and her 2 children are continuing their journey on their small boat. Day after day, they tossed around on the boat. Finally, they found a deserted island. They immediately headed to the island. Sarah was so moved to have made it to the mainland. She then built a tent out of the sails on their boat. The island looked perfect because there was fresh water they could drink. There are also many fruits that they can eat. But a storm came and destroyed the tent that Sarah had built. Sarah hugged Lilli and Richard tightly to survive the heavy rain. The next day, Sarah decides to take Lilli and Richard into the forest. After exploring, they finally found a cabin. Surprisingly, Richard looked familiar with the cabin. It turned out that the cabin was his home. Sarah decided to stay on the island with her 2 children. When they were teenagers, Sarah took Lilli and Richard to bathe in the river. At that time, Lilli wanted to pee and direct her genitals like Richard. Here, Lilli is confused as to why she and Richard have different genitals. Sarah also explained that the 2 were indeed different because Richard was a man while she was a woman. But it doesn't stop there. Lilli and Richard often ask questions about marriage. And Sarah also answered the questions of her 2 children wisely. One day, the roof of their cottage burst due to heavy rain. So Sarah spent her time in the rain fixing the roof. But the next day, Sarah was seriously ill. For days she was sick and never recovered. Eventually, Sarah's health condition worsened. She also began to advise Lilli and Richard to always protect each other. Sarah even taught her 2 children to bury herself if one day she died. But not long after that, Sarah died, leaving her 2 young children. The days passed quickly. Now Lilli and Richard have grown up. It was Easter. Lilli and Richard celebrated by making Easter eggs. They then decorate the eggs and hide them. Lilli and Richard then race to find the most eggs. The winner will get a prize from the loser. The 2 of them were busy finding as many eggs as possible until finally, Lilli got the most eggs and she won the bet. Now, Richard must give a gift to Lilli. They then went to the middle of the ocean by boat and Richard jumped to the bottom of the sea. Apparently, in the seabed, Richard managed to find a shell containing pearls. The pearl was then given to Lilli. Lilli seems to like the pearl Richard gave her. One day, Richard was looking for fish and met a shark. Instead of leaving, Richard even challenged the shark to chase him. Richard finally jumped into the water and swam as fast as he could. The shark, who saw Richard, immediately swam after him. But Richard turned out to be good at swimming and managed to survive the shark's attack. One day, when she woke up from her sleep, Lilli found blood on her bed. That's when Lilli remembered her mother's words, if she was an adult, if there was blood coming out of her genitals. Now Lilli knows that she can have children. Lilli told Richard about it. One afternoon while the 2 were taking a bath, Richard said that he hoped to be Lilli's husband, and it turns out that Lilli also hopes to marry Richard. The 2 decided to get married in front of their mother's grave. Richard gave a ring made of plant roots. They promised to always take care of each other and love each other. Their lives become very intimate, and they spent time having fun every day. One day while the two were making fishing nets, Lilli saw a ship heading towards their island. This was the first time the two of them had seen a ship approaching their island. They decided to hide. Then a small boat was unloaded and carried 8 people to their island. There was a captain named Jacob who brought some of the ship's passengers. Richard and Lilli walked over to them. Captain Jacob said if they went to the island to look for water because they lacked water. There was also a beautiful young girl named Sylvia. It turns out that Sylvia is a princess from a kingdom far from the island. Finally, Lilli and Richard welcomed Captain Jacob and his entourage and invited them to have dinner together. Richard also said that he is curious about city life and hopes to visit a big city one day. The next day, Lilli and Richard are given clothes by Sylvia. Richard was pleased and tried to wear all the clothes that were given to him. Meanwhile, Sylvia said that a woman should dress up to look beautiful. In the evening, Lilli and Richard show their dance to Sylvia. But the dance looks like a children's dance. So Sylvia also taught Richard the dance that people in urban areas commonly do. Seeing Richard and Sylvia dancing, Lilli became jealous and ran out, leaving the two of them. The next day, Lilli decided to learn to put on makeup. She remembers Sylvia looks charming on makeup. However, because she has never put on makeup in her life, her makeup looks messy. Richard doesn't like Lilli's makeup and asks her to remove it. Then in the afternoon, Richard was teaching Sylvia to fish on the beach. Sylvia turns out to have fallen in love with Richard and tries hard to seduce him into having sex with her on the boat. Meanwhile, Lilli was bathing in a waterfall in the forest. But unexpectedly, a ship officer named Quinlan peeked at her. Realizing that a man was looking at her, Lilli immediately ran away. Quinlan chased after her. Fortunately, Richard tried hard to refuse Sylvia's invitation and ran away to find Lilli. Quinlan turns out to be at Lilli's cabin and is trying to find the pearl. Finally, he managed to find the pearl and intends to rape Lilli. Luckily, Richard arrived just in time to save Lilli. The two fight until finally, Richard managed to seize Quinlan's firearm. However, because he never used a gun, Quinlan manages to reclaim the gun. Luckily, Lilli threw a blanket right in Quinlan's face, so Richard managed to attack him back. The two of them continued to struggle until they broke through the cabin wall. Captain Jacob and his men arrive. They didn't think that Quinlan would cause such trouble. They tried to break up the fight. Richard immediately ran away, but Quinlan wouldn't let him off the hook. He shot Richard at once. Richard now knows how to kill Quinlan. He swam into the water with the shark. Quinlan, who didn't know about the shark, swam after Richard. Unfortunately, he was attacked by the shark and had to be killed. Lilli and Richard are reunited. Then Lilli told Richard that she felt something in her stomach. It turns out that Lilli is pregnant. Hearing this, Richard was very happy. Eventually, Lilli and Richard decided to stay on the island while raising their children.